Hello YouTube, the Lord Freak Kalina is back. I have found out that it has been 5 months since I launched my last video. There has been a rough time since July, but now I have returned and now I will try to make my first cinematic analysis on YouTube. There will be trials and errors, so please bear with me. Before we begin, I want to point out that data mined stuff about the ending of the supposed ending of Shadowlands. I believe there were rather baits to hide the actual plot twist for the ending of the raid, but we will talk about them later. Without further ado, let's dive into our first cinematic analysis.
Sylvanas' soul has been fractured from the moment of her death until now.
So, thanks to the beginning of the cinematic, we can clearly understand that the redemption path for Sylvanas will be woven through Uther, the only one that can actually understand what has Sylvanas been through, thanks to Arthas' Frostmourne, Uther himself. So, let's go.
Now,
Burn it! This was their home. And you slaughtered all of them! How could you take all those innocent lives? This was beyond life and death.
So, Sylvanas explains to her other soul fragments here that what she had done was beyond life and death, as how the Sylvanas loyalists, us, have been trying to explain to the whole community that Sylvanas' goals were more than that. And actually, at this point, Sylvanas kind of literally explains why she had burned down the tree straightforward. And she said that this was the only way to open the path to the Maw, one of the pillar points to strengthen the Maw and the Jailer, thus the breaking of the flow system built by the Eternal Ones, light, life and order, according to our theory. And I have to say that I love Night Elves since Warcraft 3, and I have to admit that what Sylvanas has done was a genocide, that's true, but this is one of the main messages of this cinematic, that yes, what Sylvanas had done was a war crime, but it was what needed to be done, and later in the video you will see Sylvanas accepts to face with the consequences. This was actually the main message of the cinematic, and this was the way how would Blizzard redeem Sylvanas, and I like that.
There was no other path to true freedom. How can you not see that? I see what you are. Murderer! Monster! Butcher! Why can I not escape this torment?
And the higher side of Sylvanas shouting out like monster, murderer, butcher was kind of a representation of the Night Elven player base of the community, and this shows Blizzard cares about them as well, in my opinion.
the Jailer has severed their bond and condemned her to endlessly relive her atrocities, so long as her soul remains divided. She cannot wake.
We are accustomed the quality of Blader cinematic, yes, but this one took it to the next level. Look at Uther's face and his expressions, the texture quality and the animations and such. So, in terms of lore, using Uther, the one shared the same fate with Sylvanas, but managed to find his own errors for leading Arthas into that dark path and ended up forgiving him for what he, Uther himself, had done to him to lead him into the path of darkness. So Uther was being able to understand and even sympathize to Sylvanas was fitting, unlike our other heroes in the same room.
She cannot wake.
Maybe she shouldn't.
She's the only one who knows the jailer's plan.
And ultimately, the one who shouldn't speak at all spoke loud, Bane, who did nothing but sitting on his fucking ass until now through the entire expansion, while Bolvar, Jaina and Troll took to fight against Sylvanas with us. So Bane is the last person to say something about Sylvanas' fate at all in this entire room.
And how we might save Anduin.
She's the one that turned Anduin.
Jaina is right. How can we possibly trust her?
I mean, look at the anger on their face and how well that was expressed. In terms of their mistrust against Sylvanas and desire to keep her asleep, that's understandable considering we just fought against Sylvanas in a boss fight alongside with them, but I don't think we have the luxury to keep Sylvanas asleep at all, for some reason.
Come. Be the first to witness reality's end.
So, let's keep Sylvanas asleep and see what happens, right?
Her wound runs so much deeper than mine. Well met, Ranger General.
And look again, this new kind of art style Blizzard used, cartoonish but yet impressive, and making the characters somewhat sympathetic to make us feel sympathy for Sylvanas. And check out where we are here, the homeland of Uther Lightbringer, the Eastern Plaguelands of Lordaeron, a remastered version of it seems, and Uther welcomes Sylvanas into his own past.
What is this? Who are you?
Someone who shared your fate, felled by the blade of the very same prince.
Arthas. I died trying to stop that monster, only to wake up haunted by one with my face.
That Banshee is you.
No. I cannot accept that.
Her path began where yours ended.
And at this point, Uther tries to convince Sylvanas that there is nothing to do with our past. We should accept what has happened to us, and make Sylvanas's other side, the High Elf side of Sylvanas, to whatever the Banshee Sylvanas done wasn't the High Elf Sylvanas's actions. And I don't think this is a retcon at all, because we already knew that, we call Sylvanas as Banshee Queen, as the Dark Lady, not High Elf General or something, because we knew after her death she has been tainted by the Frostmourne, and her views of life, her personality has been severely damaged, and so we can actually confirm here that the other part of her had nothing to do with that.
And you've seen the decisions she made.
Never in 1,000 lifetimes would I betray everything I stood for. You can't possibly understand.
The jailer is deceptively cunning. When I realized I had become his pawn, it nearly destroyed me. He had no doubts it would destroy you as well. Was he right?
And Uther plays here into the basic human psychology. You know that, yes, he manipulated you, but you are stronger than him, basic stuff. But I would like to point out one thing here. If you have followed me so far from my blog or YouTube, I am sure you are very well aware that I do not think Zovaal is the true evil of the Shadowlands, but rather the Primus. In my opinion, Zovaal was the victim, chained down by the Primus to create his own ultimate order, and Zovaal wants to break it, but it seems, so far, especially with this cinematic, Blizzard wants us to believe Zovaal is the true evil of the expansion. I am okay with it, because so far Zovaal is the cruelest enemy we will ever face, so I am pretty much okay with having that kind of an ending boss for an expansion.
Or will you accept her shattered legacy and tell us how to stop him?
As you can see, the shattered legacy of Sylvanas Windrunner, just like Uther himself, and probably just like Arthas himself, will be explained like this, considering he was the main agent of Zovaal. And yet again, another powerful emphasis to the burning of Teldrassil. So the cinematic starts with the burning of Teldrassil and ends with the burning of Teldrassil, drawing parallels between Arthas and Stratholme and Sylvanas and Teldrassil.
Her crimes are unforgivable.
Yes.
And she... Burn it! I must face the consequences.
So we got the point where Sylvanas, the High Elf side of Sylvanas, starts to accept her present past, like starts to embrace what she had done after becoming a Banshee. So her narrative draws clear lines, parallel lines between Kerrigan and Illidan. If you have been following me enough, I have a blog post and a YouTube video comparing Illidan and Sylvanas, but it seems here we should compare Sylvanas directly with Kerrigan herself instead. Because Sylvanas, as I said, accepts her past and be one with it and is ready to face the consequences. And Kerrigan also embraced her legacy and accepted herself as who she was as Queen of Blades.
We cannot change the past, and we may never find forgiveness in the future. But inaction damns us all. Time is short, Ranger General. Make your choice.
I know so far I have appreciated enough the overall quality of the cinematic, but I have to say that Sylvanas, the Ranger General Sylvanas, looks extremely beautiful. I had to say that. For the actual lore implications of the scene is that the redemption of Sylvanas will not be the one of people would forgive her or something like this. In my opinion, at the very early days after the announcement of Shadowlands, I have theorized an ending for Sylvanas where she would become the jailer, replacing Zoval, and her redemption come through this. So the people of Azeroth does not have to forgive Sylvanas. Already we, her loyalists, love her no matter what she does. That's the truth. So the citizens of Azeroth or the other characters in the lore doesn't have to forgive Sylvanas. They should not forgive her because Sylvanas doesn't need forgiveness. She had done what has need to be done. The Eldrazi included, the bombing of Lordaeron included, etc. Just like Illidan. Illidan, during his crusade against the Burning Crusade, he as well committed atrocities, but he had done those sacrifices to end the Burning Legion, and in the end he achieved his goal. So here Sylvanas faces another choice, actually just like how she faced a choice back in 9.0.
Why do you hesitate? Make your choice, Sylvanas Windrunner.
I've done all I can.
And at the end of the cinematic, there is a beautiful reference to the death of Vol'jin. So here we are. I hope you have liked my first ever cinematic analysis. I will try to make it better and better and better in the upcoming days. Also, I have lots of theories to share with you in the upcoming days and weeks as well. I hope I won't have to vanish from YouTube this time, We will talk about Zoal being the actual Lord of Shadowlands. We will talk about a developed version of our first one, Void Lord theory. We will talk about Roxaron and the Drast. We will talk about Zolotat's whispers back in Legion, the Maw of Souls, Harbaron, etc. etc. So until next time, stay well.